Hi, everyone. It's Kimbyrleigha, and this is Kimbyrleigha Live. Sorry I went live an hour early or about 20 minutes early. Baby, lots of stuff going on. But if you've never been here before, this is Kimbyrleigha Live. Totally different channel than my main channel. A lot of people are like, I'm not getting the notifications. I'm like, this is a new channel. That's why. Baby channel, little channel, not monetized channel. Don't know if I will be after the videos I'm about to put out about Diddy. Wasn't interested in Diddy. Worked with Diddy in the past. Have my own stories about him. Wasn't going to do a video. We'll talk about that later. But my friends were like, Kimber, please, this is so interesting. However, I'm only going to be doing stuff on the information that's already out there because it's not televised. Although Rotten Mango, Stephanie So, is in the courtroom. I don't want to be in the courtroom. I've tried to work very hard so I don't have to be in the courtroom. I don't want to be in a stuffy courtroom all day. I want to be here with my messy hair and my slippers. But I digress. If you're new here, I have a true crime channel here on YouTube called Kimbyrleigha, same name, just without the live. I'm going to be doing something different over here. Those are solved cases. Over here, we talk about brand new cases, current cases, ongoing trials, and I will try to break down any legal aspects in an easy to understand manner because I'm brushing up on the law as well because I'm a law school graduate who's preparing for my bar exam. 2026, here I come, right? Got a wedding going on, had a baby, lots of stuff before that. Haven't had a chance. Graduated about 12 years ago now. But hello to everyone that's here tonight. Thank you for being here for my past broadcasts. I really appreciate it. It helps me out so much to watch these trials, to talk about cases, to dive into the law. It just really helps me brush up. Also have a podcast with my husband called Dark Livity. If you look below, our merch is down there. Like I said, not monetized channel, but if you want to support us, we also have memberships on my other channel. Videos coming soon over there. I have a new video coming up probably in the next couple days, and then another membership video and things like that. But yesterday, I haven't even been able to really think straight after yesterday. Courtney and I have been talking all day about yesterday. Courtney's in the chat. Drina Ramirez is in the chat. Trat. Live is bad. I'm already so bad when it's not live. I have to edit so much. Oh, Damaris is in the chat. So many of you are here. Thank you for being here. But today we're going to be talking about what happened yesterday, and I've been overwhelmed today by what went down yesterday in Karen's retrial. And by the way, if I have not made this clear, please know you are welcome here, no matter which side you are on, because to be honest, you shouldn't really be on a side. We should be the 13th jurors, right? Each and every one of us. And jurors don't all see eye to eye. When they get into that, oh my gosh, defibrillator, we can never pronounce that. John and I are always like, defibrillator, we can never pronounce that. Deliberation room, totally different word. When they get into that room, they are going to disagree. So I'm here to watch, listen, comment, think, and analyze intelligently with all of you because none of us will ever know the whole truth, which is sad. Because at the core of all of this, a man lost his life, and there is still no definite proven reason that that occurred as far as we can tell, right? As far as I can tell. I don't think either side has provided information that is completely confirmed about what happened. But yesterday was not a good day for the Commonwealth. Not a good day. I think it could have been a good day. I was really beginning to think as I was watching it, I was like, wow, we're finally getting to some data. We're finally getting into some science that's a little easier to understand than DNA, but still pretty complex. And we have this, you know, witness that's on the stand and he seems credible. He's breaking it down. He's starting to make sense. There's visuals up there. I'm a visual person. There's a PowerPoint. I'm following along. I'm like, I can stop and rewind if I miss something. And then there was cross-examination. I don't want to get into that just yet because there were two DNA analysts that came back in the beginning of the day. Not came back, but were there in the beginning of the day. So I'm saying DNA came back. I don't want to do a whole playing the clips of their testimony because honestly, I think I can break this down for you in an easy to understand manner. We don't have to sit there. I don't think it displayed with those two witnesses anything groundbreaking or anything that would make or break either side. But the first witness was Nicholas Bradford. He is a DNA analyst at Bode Technology, which we heard about in our last video. And as per usual, like any other analyst, he explained their strict lab protocols at Bode. He emphasized measures they take so that it doesn't get contaminated, their accreditation, and all of their testing. Okay. So if you don't remember from yesterday, we discussed the fact that the hair was found on the car and it had a root, and that root was analyzed, but then also had the shaft of the hair, right? Like many hairs do. And the analyst at hand wasn't able to do anything with that shaft. So they sent it to Bode Technology. This is the expert from Bode Technology who is now examining the mitochondrial DNA that came from that strand of hair. And as I said the other day, I didn't want to get into all of that, right? Nuclear DNA, autosomal DNA, mitochondrial DNA. But we kind of have to get into that today to make it make sense. You get half your DNA from your dad, half your DNA from your mom. And to make this so simplified, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not an analyst, it's complicated, right? Mitochondrial DNA comes from your mom. Just think of the M, right? The M in mitochondrial DNA, the M in mother. It's always going to come from the mother side of the family, right? So you're going to pass that down. If you're a woman, you're going to pass it down to your daughters or your sons. So even men have it, but it's to the mother's lineage. Making sense so far? So when it's tested, it's going to show that it came from that maternal line. So mother, grandmother, great grandmother, great, great, great. We can keep going back, 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 right? Well, this analyst testified specifically about the hair that was found on Karen Reed's vehicle. But when it was found, the DNA was insufficient with the nuclear DNA. So then they had to transfer it to Bode, and that's where he came in. I mean, not where he came in, sorry. He tested it and then he had to, I'm so sorry. Then he had to actually send it over to another analyst, Carl. Oh my goodness, what was his last name? I think it was Miyasaku. I might be saying that wrong. But Carl was now the one who actually tested this hair shaft. Okay. So what he found, I kind of already told you. He found the mitochondrial DNA linked to John O'Keefe. But if you were listening and you understood it so far, that doesn't necessarily mean that it was John O'Keefe's hair, right? And on cross, the defense brought up things that I was going to bring up, who I'm sure the jury was thinking of as well, or what the jury was thinking of as well. Well, doesn't that mean it could have come from anyone on the maternal line? We're going to get there. But the defense also asked, oh, well, did you test for Brian Higgins or Brian Albert or Kevin or Kenneth Berkowitz? And the analyst said, no, of course. I'm not going to tell you why, because I've already done it again and again. We should have like a banner, because the defense's theory is undermine the investigation and you have reasonable doubt, case closed, right? That's what they're trying to do. So they're always going to try to bring up, oh, you didn't test these people, the people that supposedly might also have something to do with what happened to John. But when this senior DNA analyst from Bode Technology, Carl, he explained his qualifications, his role in the lab, their procedures. He had to do all that, talk about contamination. And of course, he had to do that because the prosecution's going to say, oh, no, the investigation was sound. It's right. But let's just listen to that little part, because I think that is kind of important. Hopefully, I wasn't talking too much for you guys. I was trying to explain all of that so we could get to this part. Ready? Let's listen to this part, and then I have more. Hopefully, it's playing. Tell me if it's not.
And did you then perform your own comparative analysis of those two mitochondrial DNA profiles from the hair extracts from the rear panel of the defendant's vehicle and that of the known standard of Mr. O'Keefe?
I did.
And what is your opinion or conclusions that you arrived at from that comparative analysis?
Objection. Sustained.
Hold
on. Ask it differently, Mr. Miller.
What conclusions did you come to from that comparative analysis between those two standards?
That John O'Keefe could not be excluded as being a source of the hair sample.
Now, can you expound a little as far as your conclusion is concerned? What does that mean?
Yeah, if I may refer to my report.
Yes.
Yeah, the notifications. It only gives me 3 a week, unfortunately.
So whenever we have a conclusion of a probable inclusion, like in this case where I could not exclude John O'Keefe as being a source of the hair sample, we do a statistical analysis to give weight to that probable inclusion. So in this case, using a database and with 95% confidence, at least 90%.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, the feed actually cut out. So I'm just going to stop it here. And I'm also in a really crooked position on my camera. I can tell that now. Am I supposed to be over here? Oh, I'm supposed to be over here. Oh, darn it. Okay. So all I was trying to show you is that he found that John O'Keefe couldn't be excluded. So that was important, right? Because that means he's included in this sample. He's included in the hair. But as I was explaining, which I'm really into, like I like this part, he couldn't be excluded. But you're probably thinking, well, it could also belong to anyone on John's maternal side, right? So that means it could be from Peggy O'Keefe herself, his mother, who was in the courtroom, rolling her eyes, I might add. I don't know how I feel about that, rolling her eyes. Um, or as argued by the defense later, it could also come from John's niece or nephew. I don't want this to be confusing, but John's sister is the mother of his nephew and niece. Okay. And they all come from the same mother, Peggy, and on and on and on. So they would all have the same mitochondrial DNA, right? So the witness did reiterate that he could not definitely identify the hair as belonging specifically to John O'Keefe due to the lineage, as we talked about. It's not going to be unique to one individual, but the maternal lineage. But on redirect, it was also, I think it was Lally actually that came back. Maybe it was Hank Brennan. I don't remember who it was, but he also admitted that the profile was consistent with O'Keefe's maternal lineage and it excluded 99, it was like a 99.985% of the general population. But still, I understand all the numbers, but you can't say that that was John's hair specifically. It was a good argument. I think it was the best argument on both sides that could be made. I don't really think that it's groundbreaking, like I said. And you know what? There could be many reasons why John's hair is on the car, and they're not going to be nefarious. John was dating Karen. He used that vehicle, I'm sure. He used it that night. We know he got into it. Could be easily transferred, but it could also be hair easily transferred from his niece or nephew. They rode in that vehicle. Karen, I'm sure, assisted them to school, to events. They practically lived in the same house when Karen was at John's on a regular basis. So I don't think, like I said, that it was going to make or break the case. And that's why I said I don't really want to sit here and play every piece of this testimony. However, I don't like that I'm like off screen, guys. He moved my camera because he had to go somewhere with it. Okay, I think I'm in the middle now because I'm like all over. However, the next witness could have been one of the best witnesses for the Commonwealth to date. But nobody likes a liar. If I came up to you and asked you, do you like liars? Just generally speaking, like if I'm like, do you like liars? Do you like somebody who lies to you? Oh, why am I moving my screen? Sorry. Do you? Do you trust people that lie to you? How do you feel about people who lie? How do you feel about people who lie to get a job? What if someone lied and they got a better salary than you because they said they had a degree that you didn't have? And let's say the one you worked for was actually better than what they had. That would feel crappy. And I think no matter what side you're on in this whole thing, hopefully you're not taking a side, but you're taking the side of the law. I can, I feel like we can all agree that we wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want to work with somebody like that. We certainly wouldn't trust somebody who lies like that. And unfortunately, what came out yesterday in testimony on cross examination was that the Commonwealth's witness, the forensic digital examiner who specialized in vehicles and cell phone forensics, and supposedly had 10 years of experience who could have bolstered their case because, like I explained, he had the PowerPoint. He was explaining everything, and they compared her Lexus to another Lexus that they purchased just to test on it. Well, they pulled out what I'm going to be referring to as the black box, the infotainment system. That was supposed to be really important because it is important information about what Karen's car did, where it was going, and when. But Shanon Burgess, the man that I'm referring to, the man on the stand who supposedly holds multiple certifications from Celebrite, which I know you've heard of, Magnet Forensics, with approximately 700 hours of specialized training, he taught digital forensic seminars for attorneys, engineers, even police agencies. He also testifies in court. He's testified for multiple state courts for both the prosecution and defense in civil and criminal cases. And he's currently employed at Aperture in Dallas, Texas. He lied. He lied. So we have to backtrack in order for you to understand why this is such a big deal because, not everyone, when they saw what happened, thought it was that big of a deal because they were like, well, wait a minute. It doesn't really mean that he doesn't know what he's talking about just because he lied about what was on his resume. But I have to disagree with you because academic dishonesty is not okay. Someone like myself who has gone to school for many, many years, I feel like I've earned my degree. I don't take it lightly, especially someone that's a paid expert. Their salary per hour can be $1,000 an hour. So he came on this case in October of 2024. Why? Well, because he reviewed initial attempts by another examiner, Maggie Gaffney, who extracted vehicle data from Karen Reed's Lexus. And he said that Miss Gaffney didn't perform her duties sufficiently and that he needed to come and re examine everything, including the state police crash reports and other experts' analysis. And because of his education and expertise, his opinion was that there was missed data. Okay. And that was the defense's um, expert, Miss Gaffney. And due to an improper way that she supposedly retrieved one of these memory chips during the extraction, oh, he went into detail. He wasn't just skimming, and we can talk about skimming later. It wasn't good. But he was saying, or even accusing her of overlooking things and misinterpreting storage and causing physical damage to the circuit boards, affecting the integrity. So essentially, he was calling out this other examiner who was specifically hired by the defense to investigate the car's computer. I hope that makes sense because I know a lot of people were wondering, like, why is this such a big deal? I don't understand. I'm hoping that that gave you the most, like, the biggest recap I could on what was going on. He pretty much was called to debunk everything that the defense's witness had initially found in the first trial. But to find out that someone wasn't telling the truth, that was unfortunate. And they didn't just begin here. His lies started before. So he was on the stand for a while, practically the entire day. And he dove into explaining computer modules, the airbag control module, which is the black box, how different times on different devices need to be synchronized. I mean, ultimately what he did in the most layman's terms that I could possibly put it, he took the black box in Karen's Lexus and the data from that, the time data and whatnot. And then he took John O'Keefe's phone and he was able to come up with an exact time for when John O'Keefe, in the prosecution's theory, was hit by Karen's car. And as I said, I was glued to the screen. I was like, we're finally getting some data. We're understanding it. It's making sense to me. I'm following. I'm looking at all the visuals. And his primary focus was extracting a timestamp. Okay. And he wanted to look at when her car powered on and when it powered off, because that's going to give you a time frame in which something occurred, right? They got into the vehicle, they left the waterfall, she got to John O'Keefe's house. What is that time frame in the middle so they could break it down even more? He took events from what he called this overlooked SD card. We're going to hear about that in the infotainment system. So let's listen, because this part I feel is important for you to hear. You may not understand it completely, but just try to kind of stay focused on it, and then we'll come back to discuss. And I'm also going to look at your comments.
And if you could remind us before we go into your findings in that SD card that was left behind, what was the most important thing you were looking for as far as data on that SD card?
Sure. So the most important thing we're looking for is time-stamped data, specifically related to power on or ignition on events.
If you were to find timestamp data for power on, power off ignition events, how would you use that? What would you use that in unison or comparison with the information that you already had?
Sure. So we would use that in comparison with provided surveillance videos to compare and see how accurate those timestamps are and how consistent they are, specifically on the night of January or the morning of January 29th.
When you analyzed the SD card, did you get viable information?
Yes, we did.
What information did you get?
So we've got a couple different data types. We got contact lists from some of the connected devices, as well as serial numbers and phone numbers associated with the connected devices, call logs, and then power on and power off events.
Was your focus on one particular aspect of that data?
Primarily, the focus was on the power on and off events.
And did you find information regarding power and power off events that could date and time those?
Yes, we did.
If we could have number 29, please.
Okay, one question from Cuffy was, are you going to do membership so we can send super chaps and whatnot? Super chaps. Chaps. I don't want to say the other word. Starts with an A and an SS and LES. Okay. Chaps, that's all I think of. Chats. Yes, if YouTube decides to monetize this channel. Not really sure if they will. And it's okay. Drina said, who are the Albertsons? It's the Alberts. No worries though. It's okay. So there's a lot of people and players. So the Alberts, that was the house that he was found in front of. The 34 Fairview home is a home of Brian Albert and his wife. And that was another police officer. So that's who that is. Mick Alberts. Oh, she said Mick Alberts. Yeah. That's right. I like that a lot of you are answering the questions in the comments. That's really good because I can't always get to all of them at the same time. Hi to everyone who's here. I really do appreciate it. And A for Anonymous said, finally made it to a live. Hello, how are you? Okay. So if you heard that, he confirmed that he was able to find the on and off times, which is really important. He also discovered that pressing the ignition resulted in a 3-second delay before the infotainment system powered on, and the timestamps were accurately recorded on this SD card, which he identified and validated. And this was like the first, I mean, not the first time, because we've heard about this in the last trial. We used to hear it be called, not the triggering event, keystrokes. Was it keystrokes? No, that's different. If you guys remember, tell me what it was. Now we're calling it something else. But he identified and validated these times. And we have times. He said the first significant power on event was, wait for it, at 12:36 a.m. on January 29th of 2022. And the first power off was at 12:42 and 8 seconds a.m. from the Lexus data. Pretty important information for this case when we're trying to figure out what happened with Karen Reed's vehicle between the time she left the waterfall to the time she got back to John's. But before going further, I wanted to look at both sides because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to look at this like a juror. I'm here to look at it as a woman. And this is not to say that only a woman would do this next thing that I'm going to tell you about. But knowing exactly when the car turned off to me would insinuate maybe to the jury that they're suggesting that that was the moment Karen pulled in to John's driveway. However, I'm sure most y'all, maybe it's just me, but I'm sure you don't just pull into your driveway and then jump right out of your car and run in the house. Because for me, I'm grabbing my purse, I'm looking around. I have a baby, but like if I don't have the baby, I may be answering a text message. I finally stopped. So maybe I'm making a phone call. I don't think we can say with certainty that she literally got out of her car in that moment and the ignition just went off immediately when she pulled in. 12:42:08 a.m. That could be the time after she texted someone, after she called someone, after she looked through her social media. I also know, and I don't have the most stellar memory. I mean, I remember a lot of things, but she's supposedly connected to the Wi-Fi automatically, like most of our phones do when we're in proximity of the router of our house. There was another timestamp from that, and that's going to be very important to show how close she was to the house at what time. But at the very least, I was interested in the timeline that this man was testifying to. He found another power on event at 5:07 and 46 seconds in the morning. And this was validated nearby from the Ring camera footage. And most of you have seen this footage of Karen backing her car and she hits John's Traverse. He went through a few other on and off events throughout the day. I don't really think that those were that important because we kind of know about them. You know, she drove to somebody's house. She drove by 34 Fairview. And then there was a final power cycle at 5:34:51 p.m. power on cycle. And then a 5:36, sorry, I'm putting my hair up, 42 p.m. power off. And this corresponded, he said, with, I believe, when her car was unloaded from the tow truck at the very end. And this was confirmed by video evidence. Now, the only evidence I've seen from a tow truck, because we haven't seen, like, what did the taillight look on the tow truck? We didn't see that yet, if there is that footage. But all have seen is the tow truck pulling into the police department, but maybe that's what he's looking at. I don't know. But that's what I was on board with so far. I was understanding this. It was making sense. I was like, okay, at least we have clocks and data, and I trust clocks and data, and we can examine and maybe even rely on this. So maybe we're getting somewhere closer to the truth, or maybe not. Because like I always tell you, we have to listen to the defense argument. We can't take it in a vacuum. We can't just take one side and then, conclude, well, no, we have to take both sides. So then I was waiting for the cross examination. But before that, I really thought that we had a bombshell in the case because Burgess said he identified the critical backing maneuver event, or in other words, when he thinks that Karen hit John with Alexis. And that, he said, occurred. Are you ready for this? Write it down, commit it to memory. He said it occurred between 12:32:04. So that's 12:32 in the morning and 4 seconds, and 12:32 and 12. So I'm going to say this again 12:32 and 04 and 12:32 and 12. Does that make sense? So we have between 4 and 12 seconds in the middle. 12:32 is the time based on his adjusted clock data. So let's actually listen to him explain this because I think that's really important. Hope my earrings are not distracting you. I wear a lot of earrings.
When you apply that variance between the Lexus clock and Mr. O'Keefe's phone, what is the, could I turn to 43, please?
That's what I was saying. I can speak.
What is the time of that event if we're referring to Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
Sure. So the time of that event with the clock variance adjusted is 12:32:04 to between 12:32:04 and 12:32:12.
And do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty as to the accuracy of that time from Mr. O'Keefe's phone considering the variance?
Yes, I do.
And what is your opinion?
And the opinion is that the second text stream event ends between 12:32:04 and 12:32:12.
Pretty confident, right? He's like, this is when it happened, 12:32:04 to 12:32:12. I was like, wow. So there it is, the case cracker. If you know, you know. But let me showcase some of your comments because I think you're thinking how I was thinking. Gina said, I've literally stayed in my car for an hour after parking, so I wouldn't doubt she stayed in her car prior to getting out. It's also snowing. So I would assume, she's gathering things, maybe even who knows if she had her coat on and off in the car, maybe the heat was on, maybe she stayed in for a while. Someone, Winter Sky said the drive from 34 Fairview to One Meadows takes 6 to 8 minutes on a good day, according to people who live there. So even the 12:32 doesn't make sense. Interesting. Courtney said, what if the clock on John's Wi-Fi is wrong? Just a thought. I would assume, the Wi-Fi. Where are they getting that from, though? Are they getting that from Apple? Because I feel like it would be, I'm not saying like Apple's the end all be all, but if they're getting it from Apple, I would tend to agree that it's probably accurate because I feel like they do things within pretty accurate standards, but it's also proprietary, so we never really know how they're doing it. When this guy said maybe, but I think they got the data from her phone. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. So I'm like, wait, if they got it from her phone, maybe. And then Brandy actually made a comment that the amount she was texting and calling John, I'm almost 100% she stayed in her car before going in. And we were all kind of thinking the same thing. Maybe it's because, we all think alike, which I think we do. Even if we disagree, I feel like we're on the same wavelength. So that was what he had concluded. And like I said, I was excited because I was like, okay, he said, these opinions were scientifically independent. They were verified by cross-referencing multiple data sources and established methods. And that's when he believed John was injured. But then, Courtney and I were talking about this, like immediately in the morning. Alessi cross-examines this man. And I have to say, it started out pretty normal. He was just confirming that Burgess is a digital forensic examiner. He explained forensic evidence must be accurate, unbiased, reliable, methodical, since it's intended for court, because forensics, anything that's forensic, right, is intended to be used in the law, in court. And he agreed, but he also wanted to point out the importance of avoiding cognitive biases, especially confirmation bias. And that involves favoring evidence that confirms something you already believe in, right? And that's why I have to hint that this is going in a certain direction, or that I had a hint. I'm going to hint to you, but I already had a hint. I was like, oh no, he's thinking that this man has confirmation bias because he's already thinking like the Commonwealth. It's not that he came in as an independent examiner. I was like thinking, unless he's going to prove, no, he was already biased when he came in. And that's where I thought he was going, because guess what he says? He questioned him about labeling the case a homicide prematurely. So before his report was completed and before he did the forensic testing, and I know you might be thinking, well, homicide, not murder, but homicide is the killing of a human being by another, right? So it might have been a slip up. Maybe he just wrote in his notes like the homicide of John O'Keefe. We don't know. I'm not looking at the document. But I think it was probably more accurate if he would have said death investigation. If you're unbiased and you're just an expert that's looking at the data. So I think that was the first red flag, but probably not the worst red flag. So let's just listen. And I apologize. Alessi's going to be shuffling his papers around. That's not me, that's him. So forgive the shuffling noises. This is going to be a little bit of a longer clip, so let's just listen to it.
You describe yourself as a digital forensic examiner, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You use the term forensics often in your analysis.
Yes, I do.
And would you agree that generally the accepted definition of forensics is something that relates to, that's used in, and is suitable for a court of law?
Yes, I would.
And so when you're working in forensics, even in your office, you understand that eventually it's very likely that whatever work you're working on is going to end up or could end up in a court of law, correct?
Correct.
And you mentioned in your direct examination the scientific method, right?
Correct.
And I was pleased to hear mention of the scientific method. And I just want to cover some principles with regard to the scientific method. But before I do, I just want to see how forensics envelopes in certain items. So forensics applies scientific methods and principles to legal matters, particularly in criminal investigations, right?
Correct.
It's a fair statement.
Yes.
Thank you. And forensics are used to help lawyers in their preparation, correct?
Yes, that'd be correct.
And it's used to help judges in courts of law?
Yes, that is correct.
And it's also used to help juries and jurors to understand the results of scientific tests, correct?
Correct.
So you know, and you have to presume that as you are performing your analysis, as I stated earlier, that this information is going to end up in a court of law?
Correct.
And then does that heighten sort of the analysis that you need to do and the sharpness and the accuracy, given that it's going to end up in that form?
It can, depending on context.
I thought that was weird because I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean depending on context? It should always be held to the highest standard. You're under oath. A person's freedom is on the line. It has to be accurate. And above all, it has to be truthful. It has to be reliable. And that's emphasized.
And is the primary goal of forensic science to uncover the truth and to provide objective evidence that can be presented in a court?
Yes, it is.
Would you generally agree that the work of forensic science, including the work that you do, is intended to be used in court because scientific evidence can be very powerful, and therefore the forensic science must be accurate?
Correct.
It must be methodical.
Correct.
There must be a method, right?
Right.
It must be detailed.
Yes,
And above all, it must be unbiased and truthful, correct?
that is correct.
And all of this, is it fair to say, distills down to reliability?
Correct.
And reliability is a desired characteristic of the forensic scientist.
Yes.
You want people to be able to rely upon your work.
Yes.
And credibility and honesty is part of reliability, and it's a fundamental component of that, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And this is correct. And I like how Alessi was setting this up. I mean, you have to give the guy credit. This was a great setup. His job is to impeach this witness. I hope you understand that. His job is to impeach this witness, because if he can make the jury understand that this man is everything that he shouldn't be, meaning he's not credible, he's not reliable, he is not truthful. If all of that is emphasized, then everything that he just told them is pretty much down the drain, because that is the job of the jury. It is their job to listen, and it's their job to decide whether they believe someone or not. And they can use their common sense. They can use what they feel in their gut. Truthfully, like if they don't believe someone because of the way they look or the way they're acting, that's on them. They're allowed to use any of those things, not just what they're saying, but if they have a feeling that they are not genuinely telling the truth, they don't have to believe anything they're saying. So that's the whole idea of impeaching someone. And that is what Alessi is doing. But he's setting it up so beautifully right here. You gotta give him credit, no matter what side. His job is an attorney, right? A defense attorney in this case. And he's setting this up so beautifully because he's telling him, this is a fundamental component, right? Credibility. You want to make sure your work is reliable. That's really important. So I think the two major things he's trying to point out is you can't be biased and you got to be truthful. So why do you think he's pointing that out? Well, I was thinking, well, he thinks this man is biased and not truthful. That's why he's doing it, but I couldn't have guessed what was coming next. Because honestly, in the hundreds of trials and cases that I've covered and watched, I've never seen anything like this happen ever, ever, ever. So let's just watch it. I think I'm still at the same part here. Maybe I can skip to here. Let's skip to here. Because I think you got that part.
Professional credentials are important in any profession, correct?
Correct.
And they're important in your forensic examiner profession as well.
Correct.
Your forensic scientists and examiners are no different than any other professional that credentials are important. And your profession requires you to provide curriculum vitae laying out your education, training, and background, correct?
Correct.
And it's imperative, is it not, that the information that is disseminated about your professional credentials are absolutely truthful, right?
Yes, they should be.
You say they should be. Let's continue on with that topic. You understand what's meant by the term ethics, right, generally?
Yes, yes.
And simple ethics mandate that one is truthful about their professional credentials, correct?
Correct.
And a fundamental credential is what type of college degree you hold, correct?
Correct.
People rely on those credentials, and the credentials are the foundation of your expert opinions and analyses, correct?
They can be, yes.
They can be, and they often are, correct?
Yes, they can be, depending on context.
You see how he was already kind of skirting around it? He was like, well, they could be important. It's like, no, they're important. He knew exactly what was going to happen. I feel like he was probably shaken in his boots if he's wearing boots, and if not, he's pooping his pants, or both. Because I think he knew what was going to happen next. Well, let's keep going.
But more often than not, they're important.
Yes, again, depending on context.
You know that not only your colleagues, but your clients, your firm clients, courts, and juries will rely on your CV and your credentials in order to make determinations about whether you're qualified to testify and your depth of your qualifications, correct?
Correct.
You provided the Commonwealth, the defense, and the court with your CV in this case, correct?
Correct.
I think everyone knows what a CV is. It's basically his resume. It's extended. It's all of his experience. It's not just his resume like what we would do for a job, but all of his experience, the cases he's worked on, maybe even samples of his work. And he turned this into the court.
If I can have a moment, Your Honor, I will
Yes.
get my first exhibits.
Let me just mute it for a second. While he's getting his exhibits ready. Right. He turned this in, whether it was submitted by him or it was submitted by his business. It was given to the court. It was also given to the defense and the Commonwealth, of course, but they hired him through Aperture, so they probably already knew his resume. Yeah, the setup was wild, Drina. I hope I'm saying your name right.
For identification?
For identification at this point.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm going to have it off. I'm going to be eventually offering it into evidence. So,
Okay.
they present it to the
So
witness.
let's run for identification first.
Yep. Okay.
Is it TT for identification?
So not all homicides are murder. Some deaths are justified. There's justified killings. There's a lot of things. But yeah, he called it homicide and not, death investigation.
Learning not to talk while I'm walking backwards so Madam Court Reporter can hear me. So I'm presenting you with with its exhibit TT for identification. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
And what is that document?
So this document appears to be my CV.
May I approach further?
Yes.
Thank you. And is that C?
Sorry to interrupt, but that's why we're here, right? We're having conversations. What case was it? Just think about this while we're doing this. What case was it where the person kept calling it a homicide? I don't know what case it was now. It's coming to me. I'm going to think about it. But there was one case where they were like, no, you shouldn't be calling it that because you don't know if, like, how they got killed. It might even have been this one in the last trial. But it was like during an investigation. Perry said, why did he think no one would notice? It's a huge public trial, and people have been poring over every single detail. I don't know. Maybe he got away with it so long. I think you get desensitized.
V, a document that you have prepared.
Yes, so that is a document that either I have prepared or the company Aperture has prepared.
And is that a fair and accurate document?
It appears to be.
Your Honor, I offer that into evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Brennan?
No, thank you.
Yes.
And if you could just, if you want to have the witness hold that I have some
Hold on,
questions.
let's let it mark first.
Yes, yep.
I was going to try fast forwarding a little bit.
I'd ask you please to draw your attention to the education section where underneath in red it says BGS, and then, do I read it correctly? It says Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, University of Alabama Birmingham, Alabama currently pursuing. Did I read that correctly?
You did read that correctly.
Thank you, sir.
That was a mouthful. He's like, it's your bachelor's degree, but the way he said it, it was a lot. It was like Bachelor of, what did he say? I'm not going to rewind it, but it's like Bachelor of Business Administration, Mathematics, Studies. Let's continue.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
From Birmingham,
Thank you.
Alabama.
Like this mark is the next for identification only at this point. Oh, excuse me, can I have that back on, Mr.
So clearly what he was pointing out is like, you can't accidentally write that. It's like a long bachelor's degree specifying everything.
This time, Your Honor?
Mr. Brennan, any objection?
No, thank you.
Here it comes.
Exhibit 184.
Thank you.
I could have fast forward.
I present
Sorry.
back to the witness, Your Honor.
Okay.
I forgot he had to show him
Thank you.
every document. But just to point out, on his current resume, the one that he submitted to the court, whether it was through him or his business, he stated that he had his bachelor's degree, but it was being pursued. But there's more.
Mr. Burgess, once you've had a fair opportunity to look at that, I have a question, and that question is simple. Is that your April 2025 CV?
Let me see. Yes, it appears to be.
Thank you. And when you've had a fair opportunity to look at it, when you can just pick your head up, sir, to let me know you're ready. I don't want to rush you, but then I have some questions.
Absolutely. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. So, in those two exhibits, your two CVs in front of you, am I correct that the first one is November 2024 and the second one is April 2025?
Let me see. Yes, that appears to be correct.
In both of those CVs, you indicate that you have not yet earned a bachelor's degree.
That is correct.
And you certainly have not earned a Bachelor of Science degree in any educational field according to those two CVs, right?
Correct.
And in fact, as you sit here today, you do not possess any bachelor's degree.
Correct.
Okay. So both of his resumes, November 2024, April 2025, both indicate that he has earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Math and Business Administration. But in fact, he doesn't have a bachelor's at all. So just wait. I know some of you already know. You already watched it. I understand that. So did I. I can definitely see people having two different perspectives. And maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe everyone's like, you know what? No, this is wrong. I can see right here, someone said J. Rand, I hope I'm saying that right. He lied on his credentials. He made up a degree that doesn't exist. Throw away testimony of this witness. Like, throw it out. And Cuffy said, I thought that Casey from client was ruled a homicide, but she couldn't confirm that. Oh, sorry. That was a different one we were talking about before. We'll go to that one in a minute. Sheila said, and he still acted like all of his work was 100% perfect, my words, and blamed everyone else. We'll get to that because that's something I wanted to point out. I do believe there are going to be perspectives, and it's okay to feel differently at first until we kind of work it out, because that's the whole reason I'm doing these videos. We want to talk about things because I think this is a big deal. I really do. As someone who does have a bachelor's of science degree, who has worked very hard to obtain mine is a bachelor's of science in psychology with a minor in sociology. This irks me. It really does. It irks me. And you know what? If you're still earning your degree, I'm still earning a certificate. I'm doing medical legal death investigation. Courtney knows I've been doing it. I've been doing it not 17 years. We'll get to that. I've been doing it since 2021, but I'm not done. So I'm not going to put that on my resume. I'm not even going to be putting that pursuing it. Now, if you ask me about it, I put it on here. I'll tell you about it because I think it's interesting and I want to talk about things I've learned. And I've already gotten certificates for things that I've completed, but I'm not going to be putting that on my resume. And I also know what it feels like to be accused of not having a degree as well. I have been accused of not really going to law school. That's different because I really do have a law degree. It can be confirmed, it can be validated. But this is quite another thing when you're being questioned about something and you lied about it. I think we've all been caught in a lie. Nobody's perfect. But I don't think any of us have been caught in a lie under oath in a murder trial. That's different. So let's continue.
And the reason, as you state, is because that bachelor's degree is currently pending. That's the term you use.
So I use currently pursuing.
Currently pursuing, yes. So,
Sorry, I'm asking this again, but currently pursuing. Like, where do we draw the line on what currently pursuing is? Is it I want to go to college? Is it I watched a commercial and I'm interested in going to college, so I got a brochure? Is that me pursuing? Does it mean you actually have credits and you're working on it right now? Because I would really like to know what he means, because I think it makes a difference to me anyway. Like, having wishful thinking and hopes and dreams of becoming, let's say, a neurosurgeon and going and looking at the school is not pursuing the degree. And I'm not trying to be funny, but like, I have to laugh at these things. But that was really cringy to me because I'm like, wait, especially when you hear like how long he's been pursuing it. I kind of gave it away earlier, but currently pursuing? I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way.
you have a public profile that's published on Aperture's website, correct?
Yes, I do.
And it's in the form of a biography page?
Yes, I believe so.
And that biography page has your education listed?
Very possible, yes.
May I approach your on?
Yes.
Thank
Okay, they're going to be looking at something that I took screenshots of for you because, yeah, they didn't show it in court. Here we go. Anna Montana said, as someone who served and has a Bachelor of Science, I feel like it's just the same as stolen valor. This is not a good look. So this was his picture on the website. This is on Aperture's website, his employer. It says forensic expert, digital forensics, which is the department he works in. Then we've got his entire bio. I don't think you want me to read this, but I will. For over 8 years, Shanon has forensically litigated cases involving distracted driving, fraud, employee misconduct, data, what is that? Exfiltration, criminal investigations, damaged devices, and other issues involving digital devices. He frequently speaks at industry events, maintains bylines in industry publications, and enjoys sharing insightful content relating to digital forensics and cybersecurity. Oof, cybersecurity. Someone should have locked down his LinkedIn. Before entering the forensic science field, Shanon spent time in the automotive manufacturing industry, gaining in-depth knowledge of industrial robotics and control systems. How do we know that's true? In 2008, while attending college, Shanon was employed at the University of Alabama Huntsville Systems Management and Production Center, working on various engineering projects, including the testing of small unmanned aircraft systems and data collection purposes. Now, that 2008 is going to track. We'll talk about that in a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to show you this one. Oh, wait. His education was listed. I don't think you can see it. Let me bring it up. Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration with an Associate's in Science of Computer Networking. I can't read. We also have his professional certifications, and I'm not going to read all of those, but you can see he's Celebrate certified. But here's what I wanted to point out. Sir, you're telling me you are a licensed private investigator and you are lying about things on your resume that other investigators, who was really the defense, but they have investigators, right, had to find? That's not a good look. And what is worse is that his employer on their website, this is what it says: "We exist to shine a light on the truth." Oh, that could not have hit any harder. That is like, oh, that's terrible. That's just, I mean, they did. They did in hiring this man and then sending him in front of millions, maybe millions. There's millions of people watching this. My goodness. My goodness. We laugh, but in the grand scheme of things, I was telling my husband, we feel the same way, and this is not going to make sense, but there were people stealing our mail for a while from our home, and it was aggravating me really bad because years ago, I was part of I'm not going to say lawsuit. I was part of capturing someone who was stealing mail, and they were washing checks. They were stealing from people. They were cashing other people's rent checks. And I sat home from work so that I could catch this person because I was so upset. Don't laugh. That I ordered a vintage shirt that was like real vintage, not like a made shirt that was vintage, like a real vintage Nirvana shirt. And it got stolen in the mail. And I said, that is irreplaceable. I've had enough. It was near Christmas time. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to catch this person. And I did. And she was 19. It's a federal crime. She went to prison. I was one of the people that identify her. They gave me the notices of all of her lawsuits. Did I feel bad? No. Because I feel like once our mail system is infiltrated and we can't trust that when we put something in the mail or we buy something, that is like part of the fabric of our society. I know it's going to sound silly, but it really is. Like think about it like this. If our lights don't work, if our traffic lights stop working, if we can't rely on a green light to really mean we can go and people aren't going to follow the rules, I feel like that is society kind of breaking down. Recklessness and all that. So this is what it reminds me of. And I was telling my husband that I'm like, this reminds me of like when and Courtney was on the phone too. I was like, this is what it is. It's like when you start breaking down and you can't even trust a witness, an expert witness on the stand of a murder trial, when someone's freedom is on the line, whether we like her or not, because that could be you one day. And this could be a witness against you in court. So it matters. It's a big deal. It's a yikes. And published on their public-facing bio, where people can potentially want to hire this man, it says that he has a bachelor's. And you know what the saddest part is? He didn't even have to lie. Because you know what? Maybe a lot of those credentials are true. Maybe he did work in all of those industries. But unfortunately, once you lie about something like this, it's really hard to recover from it. It really is. Because then it's like, what else is he lying about? If he can lie about this, what else can he lie about? Sorry that was so long-winded.
And if you click on the hyperlink for your CV on that same website, do you know where that hyperlink takes you?
No, I do not.
Discount service.
To any member of the public reading this, including prosecutor, a defense attorney, a judge, or a jury, that represents that you received your Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, does it not?
Objection.
That's sustained, Mr. Wilson.
Now, if you continue on to your photograph, are you familiar with Aperture's website that speaks about you and presents you generally?
Vaguely, yes.
We just looked at that.
Are you aware that Aperture has two hyperlinks, one that says CV and one says LinkedIn? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am now.
And LinkedIn is a professional networking platform designed for career and business professionals.
This man act like he didn't know what LinkedIn was when he was posting on the feed, his activity feed, 3 weeks before this. And he's like, yeah, I think I know what it is. It's like, no, you know exactly what LinkedIn is. You're keeping up with your LinkedIn. It's bad.
To connect, share content, find jobs, etc. Is that a fair description of LinkedIn?
Yes, it is.
And could we also conclude that it's a professional networking platform, especially for private sector firms like Aperture, that's used to attract clients or potential clients?
Yes, correct.
And potential clients include, for example, the Commonwealth of the state of Massachusetts, correct?
Correct.
And indeed, the Commonwealth is no longer, if you will, an attracted client, but it's an actual client of Aperture and you, correct?
Correct.
I just want to point something out. I hope you don't hate me for stopping. But in case you're getting lost in the sauce right now, the reason this is so important is because this is a public facing website. And I think Perry said this was all public, which is embarrassing, right? Because it's like Aperture is putting this out there. Somebody else said, let me see. Denver Mom said, I feel like this company possibly did that on purpose to make him a scapegoat. I don't think so, but I'm going to tell you what I do think happened. But this is where Aperture attracts customers like the Commonwealth. And actually, the Commonwealth should care about what just happened. They should, I don't want to say this like offhanded, but they should be thanking Alessi for doing this research or whoever did it on their team because they got duped, in my opinion. And we're going to talk about, people saying like, oh, it's Hank's fault. He should. We don't know. We don't know that because we don't know who hired this man. We don't know who, went to Aperture and said, hey, Aperture, we're looking for a forensic scientist that does this, this, and this, and this. And we saw that you have one. Or I heard he was referred by somebody else. But the point is, people don't usually, I mean, it's not as common. It does happen. But people don't usually at this caliber lie about their credentials and their degrees. They just don't. Like, it's really Aperture's job to vet their employees because they're putting them out there and they're getting a lot of money by portraying him as this expert that's going to be hired. So that's false advertising. His capacity as an expert is diminished. You are getting what you paid for, but you're not because he's not qualified to do the job that he's supposed to be doing. But anyway, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that because I think it's important because I really do believe that this is a problem the Commonwealth should care about regardless. Like this is a problem. And they should even maybe say like we shouldn't have paid and we want our money back. Who knows? But I think they have to rehabilitate him because that's their job.
And that's the status of the relationship here. Aperture is a client of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in this case, right?
Correct.
So is it fair to say that your CV, especially when it's published on a LinkedIn or published on a website, is something that is published to intend to have, especially if you're in the private sector, have clients view and retain your services? That's a hope and an expectation, correct?
Yes, that is part of it.
Where else do you
Now,
go on LinkedIn?
When you look at that document, when you click on
I mean, I know that it's also a social media network now, but most of us have LinkedIn to attract customers. Hi, Troy Scott from Fort Worth, Texas. Perry said, I suspect his experience will keep him employed, but it will be in the back room somewhere from now. I think they're going to slowly phase him out. They're going to rehome him. They're going to rehome him. But seriously, it's bad. They should have edited him.
if you were to be in your office, and let's see if you're familiar with this, you click on your LinkedIn on Aperture's page, that would ordinarily take you directly to your professional LinkedIn account, correct? Isn't that what the links are there for?
Yes, I would expect so.
Are you notified when someone electronically accesses your LinkedIn account?
Not accesses, no. Are you referring to viewing?
Yes, that's a better verb,
yeah.
viewing. Yes.
Yes.
So you're notified. Were you notified within the last 72 hours that someone from the defense accessed your publicly available or viewed your publicly available LinkedIn account?
No, I was not aware.
So most of us who use LinkedIn, and maybe he's right, maybe he doesn't man his LinkedIn. I find that hard to believe because they made the point of saying that he posted 3 weeks ago on the activity feed. Maybe it's Aperture because he asked, "Can you see? Are you notified?" And we all know you're notified. I see it all the time. Like all these people look in to try to see what happened and where I've been and what I do. You know who looked. But he's like, "No, I had no idea that the defense accessed my profile." And then guess what happened? The link was disabled. Yeah.
Are you aware that within the last 72 hours, that hyperlink on Aperture's official website was disabled?
No, I was not aware.
Are you aware that now if you try to go on that link, that you can't, that it's disabled?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Do you know whether anyone from Aperture directed someone within Aperture to disable your LinkedIn account within the last 72 hours?
No, I'm not.
Have you spoken to anybody at Aperture about your LinkedIn account?
No, I have not.
So I think that's all I was going to play with this because I'm going to tell you about something else he did. He's going to say that he sees an error on his LinkedIn account. He said that it's been, I think he said drafted over time or something, like drafted over time. Like he's been editing his profile over time, but he doesn't know how long it's been since he's gone on there. I call BS on that. But let's listen to him. Now he's talking about his LinkedIn still.
Yes, it does with a error on page 2
There's an
regarding
error.
education.
Right, and we're going to get to that.
Sure.
But this is you recognize this as a fair and accurate depiction of your personal LinkedIn page with the exception of what you just mentioned, correct?
Correct.
Did you draft that document that's represented as Exhibit WW?
I have drafted that over time, yes.
And when was the last time you viewed that document on your LinkedIn page?
Look
I
at the
don't
judge.
typically view the profile page, so it would have been, I could not tell you how long it's been.
He doesn't look at his profile. Like my jaw's just on the floor. I'm like, sir, you what? You're a professional. It's linked up to Aperture. You're not going to check your profile?
Do you have any reason to believe that that Exhibit WW is not on your LinkedIn page online as we sit here today?
No, I don't.
Your Honor, I move Exhibit WW.
He's bringing it
into
in.
evidence.
Hang on. He's got to look at it.
No objection.
Okay. Sorry, it's on a faster process for him to be marking the evidence.
Exhibit 186.
Thank you.
So many of you live in Texas. Apparently, one of you said that Perry said that this stuff about his discrepancies and his qualifications was all over Reddit after it was announced that he would testify. So it's been out there. They still didn't do anything to rectify it. I think the damage was done. Matthew said, Bev looks like she needs a vodka and a hairbrush.
I would like to
So do I.
turn your attention to the printout of your personal LinkedIn page and go.
Sheila, remember when Alessi told them to sorry, I have to laugh sometimes. Alessi told him to pick up his head out of the It's like when you're in school and you're like writing, and your teacher's like, when you're done with your test, lift your eyeballs up. And you're like just waiting and not wanting to look at anybody else's test to make sure you're not changing your answers or anything. Oh my gosh. It's like he's a child, but he's being reprimanded.
Right to the second page, bottom, and under education it says University of Alabama at Birmingham. It's got a little UAB acronym there, and it says Bachelor of Science, B period S period comma, Applied Mathematics and Scientific Computation.
That's a different degree. Now he's got mathematic computation. Oh my goodness, applied sciences.
2016-2018. Do you see that, sir?
Yes, I do.
You know when you put the dash? Like, you know when you don't put anything on the end? Like, you're like, 2016, and then you leave it blank? Then one can assume, "Oh, he didn't graduate yet. It's been a while, but you put the end date. You put 2016-2018. But it gets worse."
That's not correct, is it?
No, it's not correct.
And you do not hold a BS in a Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Scientific Computation from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, do you?
I do not. And that would have been, at that time, an expected graduation date?
That was his expected graduation date. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I admit, when I was in law school, we were allowed to say future JD, like future Juris Doctor, right? Future. But because we were getting our degree. But we only put that within our school emails. We're not like going around and putting that on resumes or publicly facing LinkedIn profiles if they even had that when I was in college. But the point is, you don't put your education like that, like with the dates. That leads people to believe that you went to school from 2016 to 2018. We all know that. Like, he's acting like he doesn't know what's going on, like some ghost. Like, he has no idea how this got there. He's like, "Oh, that was my expected graduation date." And I'm sitting there wondering, for what degree? Because you've changed the name of it 3 different times now. So what degree are you even trying to get? And that's gonna be a problem.
So it would be expected, you state.
Correct.
It would be another word for, another word currently pursuing? Is that similar to expecting?
Sure, that could be similar.
But you know how to put currently pursuing down, don't you, sir? Because you did it on the first few CVs, but you don't have it on your LinkedIn page. Am I correct?
Correct. That's probably because obviously that has not been updated in quite some time.
Sir. Okay, wait a minute. I had to break this down because I was like, because it's just making me laugh, but it's not funny. But like, I have to laugh because it's so absurd and everybody's laughing anyway. So I'm like, WTF. And then Troy said the same thing I put in my title. Basically, I was like, he BS'd his BS. And it's like, yeah, he has BS, but just not a bachelor's of science degree. But he's sitting there saying that this just hasn't been updated in a while. You're inferring you went to school during those dates, sir. Like, I wish I could cross-examine him because I would have so much fun with that. But he wants you to believe that he doesn't even think people look at your actual profile. Okay, he said that. No, no, they do. Because they're trying to see what your credentials are. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. That's how we use LinkedIn. He's already got me so upset. Just not even with this case. Like, if this was just a person who was BSing, I would be upset.
And you said you get notifications when people access your LinkedIn page, correct?
I get selective notifications when people view my LinkedIn page.
Selective notifications, like selective memory. It's like sometimes I get notified.
So you know people are looking at your LinkedIn page, you know people are looking at your education, and you have down here 2016 to 2018. So that time period is 7 years old from 2018, yet you use the 2016 to 2018 on your LinkedIn page, correct?
Correct.
And J. Rand, I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know if it's JR. No, it's J. Rand. This guy kept updating his CVs to future dates that were pending. It's now 2025, sir, 17 years later. We're going to get to the exact, time frame, but he did keep doing that because one of them said 2022. So he knew what he was doing.
With the caveat that my understanding is people look at your posts, not specifically the profile information.
What? That's what I was getting at. He's like, no, they don't. My understanding is they don't even look at my profile. So why did you put it there?
Oh, so you believe you know apparently when people are looking at it and what they look at?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying generally.
generally.
Correct.
But you don't know who's looking at the education section on your LinkedIn page and relying upon what is represented here, that you have a Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Scientific Computation from the University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Not from the LinkedIn page. Yeah, just independently of the LinkedIn page, yes.
Where else would they be looking? He's so confusing. I think he was sweating so bad through his coat, because I was sweating watching this last night. I couldn't sleep. I was like, this can't be real. This is like made for movie drama stuff. And that's why I think people are interested in this case, but it shouldn't be that way. So let's move forward. There's another clip I wanted to show you, and I hope I don't miss it. Hold on.
Yes, so it's a copy of my CV.
Is that a CV you prepared, sir?
Another one.
It would have been prepared by myself or Aperture, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end.
Sorry, it would have been prepared by myself or Aperture, yes.
Yourself or Aperture?
Correct.
But you had, at a minimum, a role in preparing that, did you not?
More than likely, yes.
Yeah, and you would have reviewed that, because it's about you, before it would have been used by Aperture, correct?
More than likely, yes.
You wouldn't let somebody put a CV up and out to the public without you reviewing it, would you, sir?
So there are other staff members that do review and update CVs.
But you're the only one who's going to know whether what's on it is accurate or not, correct?
Unless I explain that to them, yes.
So either way, either you prepared it yourself or you interacted with somebody and explained it and collaborated with them to make sure it was right to the best of your ability, correct?
Correct.
Somebody made a point, and I thought of this, but I have a reason why I think this might have happened that's not nefarious, because I want to look at it both ways. But Brandy said, I'm behind, but Hank did not ask Shanon about his education like he asked every other witness. This is true. I realized this after the fact as well, but just giving a little bit of, alternative knowledge, or like how things might work when you do have an expert witness. A lot of times you will ask your witness, and we've heard this before. This is when we were talking about who everyone calls crash daddies, but I believe his name is Dr. Wolf. They were asking him questions outside of the jury, right? And they were arguing that he was giving them guidance. And he kept saying, no, I was just giving him information that will help the jury understand my testimony. So sometimes a defense attorney or the prosecution will ask the witness, what credentials are going to make the most sense for us to talk about to explain to the best of the jury's understanding why you are qualified. And so I don't necessarily think it was nefarious. Now, it could have been. Like, we can look at it both ways and say, okay, yeah, he was totally hiding that. But like, why? Like, wouldn't he care? Like, I feel like that's too big. Like, that's too big of a thing. I don't think he knew. Because if he did, I think that they should have done something about it. They should have remedied it. And I really do believe if they knew, they would have pointed it out themselves, because that's what attorneys do. They automatically point it out so that it can't come back to haunt them and bite them in the butt. They've done this with other ones. They've done this with other experts where they're like, isn't it true that there was a little mistake here? Oh, yeah, that was a little mistake. And then it's brushed over. It's swept under the rug. We don't think about it. So I don't know if that's what happened, or if they were just emphasizing parts of his credentials that would make more sense to a jury and would bolster the argument. But you could be right. Like, it could be on purpose. We won't know, right? I tend to want to believe that wouldn't happen, though. But I'm always surprised.
If you can look at the highlighted portion, sir, under education.
There's no highlight. Well, I understand what you're talking about. There's no highlighted portion.
I'm sorry. Let's strike that. If you look under education, the first line, it says in the right underneath BGS. Do you see that, sir?
I do, yes.
And then to the right, it says Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, University of Alabama - Birmingham, Alabama, 2022. Did I read that correct?
Yes, you did.
And up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a photograph.
Yes, there is.
He's just going to qualify that this is him, but this is another CV. Somebody mentioned this earlier, and it says 2022. It's too much. And like Courtney said, I don't think they thought to check on it because they were relying on Aperture. But what in the world is this? A graduation date of now 2022? There's really no denying that he lied so many times about his education. And I've already gotten your take on this, but I'm sure you know, in many careers, if you are a doctor, if you're even a nurse, and I know many of you that follow my channel are nurses, you are in that career. If you lie about your education and credentials, not only are you going to be fired, you could face consequences, malpractice, things like that. But I guess fortunately for him, he's a digital forensic expert. But this calls into question all of his other testimony in all those other trials that he's ever done in court, because it really does undermine his credibility, which, remember, is the most important thing, because you need to be able to trust a witness, that they are reliable, credible, and impeaching them is just proving that they're not reliable, they're not credible, and they shouldn't be trusted, and none of their work should be trusted. And it's up to the jury to decide whether they want to trust this expert witness, or they can look for things, like I said, body language, the way they talk, whether they're genuine or not, whether they think they have an underlying motive, bias, things like that. So I would be very skeptical if I was a juror. I would start thinking like, wait a minute, I don't know if I trust this guy, but it gets worse. I wish it wasn't, but it's like, and then, so then there's another thing. There's another problem in the mix. Let me see if I pointed it out here. Yeah, I did.
Is Exhibit 187 a CV that is linked directly from Aperture's website?
I do not know. I would have to look and check that.
So as you sit here today, you are not able to state whether that CV is linked directly from Aperture's website?
Correct.
So this is a third example of a document that incorrectly states that you have a Bachelor of Science when you do not possess that degree, correct?
It has errors or outdated information, correct?
It has errors or outdated information. He needs to stop burying himself deeper and deeper. Yet he keeps burying himself, because we're about to get to it. It gets worse.
Well, when you say outdated, how is it that you can call a date outdated next to something that you don't possess?
I don't understand your question.
Well, you just used the phrase either incorrect or outdated. I'm trying to understand your statement that it's outdated. Isn't it either you have a Bachelor of Science degree or you don't?
Either you have it or you don't.
I have represented I do not have a bachelor's degree.
Right. But in here, it's represented that you do, correct?
Yes, it is in error, yes.
So, let's look at what the name is that are on these documents. It says Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration. Do you see that, sir?
I'm sorry, I have to pause it. This is like the 7th different degree that he's gotten. It's like jumbled words that we need to put together.
I do.
Are you aware that there's no degree at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, called a Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration?
Yes, I am. And
He's aware that this degree doesn't even exist? And he didn't try to change the error, as he put it, the error. He didn't try to fix the outdatedness.
that is one of the errors I've identified.
So you would agree that there's not even a degree called Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration offered at the University of Alabama, correct?
Correct. That should be Bachelor of General Studies with...
No, it should be blank, because you don't have the degree.
minor in Mathematics and Business Administration.
And what you just articulated, you do not possess as you sit here today, correct?
That is correct.
What you possess is an associate's degree, correct?
Correct.
And when did you obtain that associate's degree?
So that would have been 2015.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with having an associate's degree. As a matter of fact, he probably could have been fine doing this job with just that degree instead of holding himself out, like I said, because guess what? The last state witness, I think his name was Trooper Paul. Do you remember Trooper Paul? Poor Trooper Paul. He was the one that said that John not did a somersault, but barrel rolled. Okay. And everyone was giving him crap because he only had an associate's degree and maybe did 12 hours of accident reconstruction or something like that. Don't quote me on the exact class he took for his education. But the point I'm trying to make, that doesn't look that bad anymore, right? When you have this person that's lying. And, he could be more educated than Trooper Paul, but I just don't know why he did this. We can only speculate. It might be earning potential. Whatever the reason is, academic dishonesty is really, really bad. It is. It's bad because, again, I don't need to tell you why. I mean, we're all adults, right? We're all adults. We know why it's bad. Period. Period. How do you say that? Period. Am I saying that right? Pirouette. Pirouette. I can't pronounce things. And then that's another thing. People are like, she's so uneducated. I'm like, no, I can't pronounce things right. Pirouette. That's like a ballerina move. I should know that. I was in ballet. Let me see. Yeah, I love this part. Another thing, when you're on a live, like, I don't know if you watch Lawyer, but I always watch them too. I like getting a lawyer's perspective on things. We sometimes can't pronounce things. Like, doesn't mean you're dumb. It's just like sometimes the words, there's so much going on. It's really hard, especially live. So forgive me. Give me some grace.
Are you familiar with the term mendacity?
I am not.
He wouldn't be familiar with that. It means untruthfulness or lying. I just wanted to play that little part. Okay, we're almost done with the little clips I wanted to show you. I hope you like these little breakdowns. Okay, let's see what else. I wanted to give you this one.
Sir, do you recall when you started pursuing a Bachelor of Science degree of any kind?
Sure, I do, around 2008.
So you started pursuing a Bachelor of Science for the first time in 2008, correct?
Correct.
Oops. Kavu said, I'm not ashamed of the fact that I could not go for my BS. And said, you have an Associates of Science and you're an RN. There are so many people that make me ashamed that never took the bar exam and passed. Like, you're not a licensed attorney. You're not someone who took the bar. I'm like, I was pregnant when I graduated from law school. My life changed dramatically. All I cared about was being the best mom I could be. I was a single mom. I moved across the country. There were a lot of things that happened. So I'm not ashamed of that, but it's almost to degrade me. So I know what that feels like as well. But don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. There's no shame at all. Even if you decided never to go to school, that's okay. But just don't lie about it.
If I did the math correctly, sir, you've been pursuing a Bachelor of Science degree for 17 years, correct?
That is correct.
And that's okay too. I mean, I guess I wouldn't put it on my resume.
And you have not obtained it as you sit here today.
That is correct.
And yet there are the various documents that we've seen that state that you have obtained the Bachelor of Science, correct?
Again, with errors or misinterpretation. Yes.
Mind that word or words, errors and misinterpretations. And guess what? He will use that same word, misinterpretation, to explain the data that he made mistakes on.
Errors or misinterpretation that are you stating, but you would agree those errors or misinterpretation have been in existence for some time, correct?
Yes, I'm being made aware of them now, yes.
Yeah, and they haven't been corrected for some time, correct?
Correct.
And he also worked with insurance companies. And he worked for the insurance companies. Yikes. I'm sure a lot of jurors were like, I'm not happy about that because based on his education and expertise, he would probably work to deny people's claims.
You work for insurance companies, correct?
I do work for insurance companies in addition to law firms, yes.
But you work for insurance companies, correct?
Yes, sometimes, yes.
Well, you state that right in your report in this case, don't you, sir? That you work for insurance companies?
Again, I do work for insurance companies, yes.
And what role do you play in working for insurance companies? You working for them, or are you working for the policyholders that have paid premiums or are making a claim to try to get money from an insurance company? Which role do you have?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
So I work for the insurance company themselves.
Ooh. Bad. I don't know why that just sounds terrible. Now, this was a lot. This was a lot. I've already gone over an hour. So I'm going to do a little breakdown for you because I don't think we need to watch redirect and all that stuff. But I think there were some really important points to make, and I want to break them down for you because I want to get ready for today. I always watch at the end of the night. I hear my baby too. So I'm like, I hear my baby and I have like mom mode where I hear her and I'm like, oh, my baby needs me. So it's been a long day. I want to break this down though. Cross examination started back up. There was a break in between. And without going into all of it, because I played a lot of clips tonight that were fairly long, he made some very significant errors in his research on this case, and he confused things that I don't even know about. Megabits with megabytes. I think there's like, correct me if I'm wrong, like 64 megabits in a megabyte or vice versa. This undermined his digital forensic protocol on his data extraction. Oh, I wanted to play that one part for you actually, because that was interesting. One last one. One last one is a little extra treat.
So we'll call it a proposal. In that proposal, you explain why, in your opinion, you believed an additional data acquisition was necessary based on your, in your words, education, training, and background, correct?
That is correct.
In comparison to your proposal, you had access to the manufacturing specifications of the chips in question, correct?
I did.
You were under no critical deadlines to get the work done, correct?
Correct.
In your initial October 10, 2024 report, you explained that you believed the data acquisition was incomplete because, in your opinion, based on your education, again, your words, training, and experience, the download of the acquisition was less than the chip's storage capacity, correct?
That is correct.
And converting megabytes, B-Y-T-E-S, to megabits, B-I-T-S, and gigabytes to gigabits is a basic digital forensic concept, and that concept's critical to successful data acquisition and analysis. Fair statement?
I would say that's a fair statement.
In your initial report, you stated that the December 2023 data acquisition was from the Spansion clip, S-P-A-N-S-I-O-N, from the infotainment model was incomplete because the acquisition was only 8 megabytes in size, even though the chip has a storage capacity of 64 megabytes, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that's your October 10, 2024 report, correct?
Protocol.
I'm sorry, well, is it proposal or protocol?
Protocol.
Protocol?
It is a protocol.
We'll use protocol. And you blame this on the, quote, programmer's inability to fully read the component, close quote, correct?
Correct.
In point of fact, the manufacturing specifications establish that the total flash memory component of the chips in question is equal to 64 megabits, not 64 megabytes,
Right.
correct?
That is correct.
64 megabits is 8 megabytes, correct?
That is correct.
That means the Spansion chip was not incomplete, correct?
Correct.
The acquisition was the same data size as the total memory storage capacity of the chip, correct?
Correct.
Your protocol for data acquisition was based on a misunderstanding of megabits versus megabytes, correct?
It was based on a working theory and a misinterpretation, yes.
And that was your misinterpretation.
Yes, it was.
You mentioned Ms. Gaffney in your direct testimony. Do you recall that, sir?
Yes, I do.
She
Okay, so remember I told you he's going to say it was a misinterpretation, which is also known as a mistake his mistake. But then he also talked about analyst Miss Gaffney, who worked for the defense. And he specifically said that she did things incorrectly.
Successfully acquired 8 megabytes of data from that spanking chip during the December 2023 chip-off, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that wasn't your only conversion mistake in your October 10, 2024 report, was it?
I'm not aware of any others.
You stated in your report
His
that
papers.
the data acquisition of the Micron JWB57 was incomplete because the acquisition was only 540 MB in size, but the storage capacity was 4 GB. And that's stated in your October 10, 2024 report, correct?
Protocol, yes,
Protocol.
correct.
The Micron JWB57 chip is 4 gigabits flash memory component, not a 4 gigabyte flash memory component, as you incorrectly stated in your protocol.
That is correct.
So contrary to your assertion in the report, 4 gigabits is equal to 50.
So basically, I know this is like gigabits, gigabytes. It's getting kind of confusing. I wish he would have broken this down in a better way. But he basically confirmed that no valuable additional data was extracted beyond what the initial forensic analyst, Miss Gaffney, had already gotten. Okay, for the defense. Remember, he argued, oh, she did it incorrectly. So she didn't get all of the data. I had to go back in. I had to retrieve it. She messed it all up. There was physical damage to it. All those things. Okay. No, he admitted he did not review critical collision analysis reports that were relevant to the context of the case. And he even acknowledged there was no existing scientific literature supporting the methods that he used, specifically for the Lexus infotainment extraction in this case. So, lots of admissions. The defense also emphasized his initial report didn't even mention the critical timeline specifics like the tech stream event. He only added that mid-trial on May 8th. And he even admitted, Burgess admitted, that he produced a significant supplemental report mid-trial, which he had never done before in his 10-year career. So that's interesting. And all of this is to say that the Commonwealth may have chosen this witness. This is just a theory that don't come from me because I'm just analyzing what I hear and see. But one of my theories was, and I said this to Courtney earlier, I was like, well, a lot of times when you hire an expert witness, and this is just how it is, go look it up. When you hire an expert witness, you want one, you're going to interview lots of them. It's like you're interviewing for a job, right? You're going to give them a sample of what's going on. You're going to say, what are your theories? What are your thoughts? How does this align with what our theory is? And you're going to choose the one that's the most in line with your theory. That's why you choose them. So he could have chosen this witness because maybe he was the only one willing to go with their theory. That's just one theory of why. But Burgess acknowledged that he delayed responding to the defense's expert on March 5th on that report, and he waited. And that raised questions about the timing and his motive. Because when all of this is put together, you have to be skeptical because this is someone's freedom. I mean, regardless if you like somebody or not, like I was talking about the male, and that might not have made sense, but like our society has to have things that make sense that we can rely on. And if we can't rely on innocent until proven guilty by real credible evidence, then you're going to undermine everything, right? But don't forget, they're trying to impeach him because that's what they have to do. That is the job of the defense. So I think with everything, it would be really hard for me as a juror to rely on anything that he said. And you can't really blame the defense for impeaching him. That is what they're supposed to do. And some may blame the Commonwealth, specifically Hank Brennan, and say, well, he should have done more research. He should have checked his background. How could he do this? It's such a failure. But again, we don't know the circumstances of how Burgess was hired. The Commonwealth could have gone to Aperture, relying on them to do their due diligence to make sure that their employees have the right credentials. And maybe they're just not used to somebody lying like that. Right? So then it wouldn't have been Hank's fault, and he should be finding out if he could get anything back or if any ramifications are going to come. But is there anything? I think my baby's screaming right now. But I haven't seen anything like this. Expert witnesses are held to a really high standard. You don't expect them to lie. Um, because they're supposed to be reliable. So I find it curious, like someone mentioned, that Brennan really didn't go into details about his specific credentials. But again, maybe it was just to highlight the education that the jury would understand and appreciate and would correlate with what he was going to talk about. But what are your final thoughts? I guess this is just me kind of like getting to the end of my spiel and how I feel about it. I was rubbed the wrong way. I don't even like using that term anymore, but I was just I felt bad for him at one point, but then I was like, no, Kimber, he is a grown man. He put himself in this position. This is me talking to myself. He put himself in this position. He lied. What do you care about secondhand embarrassment for this man? Like, no, he's getting paid top dollar to be on the stand and give an opinion. So, no, we need to hold him to a high standard. And I know that today the Commonwealth is trying to rehabilitate him. I can't wait to listen. I'm going to be listening to it tonight because I'm on baby duty. We switch off between my husband and I doing the nighttime shift. But luckily, Mazzy is done teething. She's got her 4 teeth that came in. So until the next one comes in, I got a little bit of sleep because she's sleeping from about 10 to 7 right now. So I'm like, hallelujah. But let's read some of these. J Rand said, if I was a juror, I would have checked out and dismissed this expert after hearing about his sketchy credentials. What a waste of taxpayer money and time for Massachusetts. A lot of people said same. Jennifer, I'm so glad you made it to a live. And yes, don't forget, it's okay if life gets in the way. And if you can't finish your education, start your education. Nothing wrong with that. These days, guess what? You can get experience. You don't need unless you're becoming a neurosurgeon. I mean, please don't skip out on the education because then you get malpractice and everything else. Don't practice without a license. But these days, there's so many jobs you can do that don't require degrees, and that's a story for another day, how much I think, like, some of them are just overpriced and not worth it and all that. But I wanna thank you all for being here. When I say that, I think you know that I'm about to leave soon, but I really do thank you. This is a new channel. Part of me was so scared to do this because 'cause I'm like, "Why am I doing this?" I've always loved going live. It means so much that I can have conversations with all of you because, usually I'm only in the comments. But don't forget about my other channel. We're almost about to hit 500,000 subscribers, so tell your friends. Where I'm like 5,000 away from hitting 500,000. I never thought I would, so I appreciate that, and I will have a video coming out. I will have a membership video coming out as well as an extra, and I will have a little personal live stream coming next week where I'm gonna be discussing what it was like to be on a TV show, a true crime TV show called Playboy Murders. Haven't checked it out. Despite the name and the context, it is still a very powerful testament and story about what happened to these poor women. So give it a chance, even if you might not have in the past. I'm on one of those shows, but stay tuned to find out which one, and then we can discuss the case after the fact. So thank you so much for being here. Don't lie on your resume, and I will see you in my very next video, whatever that will be. All right, have a great night, guys. Bye.